Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to episode 65 of Talking Asperger's with Andrew. I'm Andrew Marsh, and I have Asperger's syndrome. I was diagnosed 7.5 years ago when I was 51, and everything fell into place. Everything made sense. I've always known I was different, and I've had difficulty struggling fitting in with people in various groups, whether that's family, friends, school, college, work. The diagnosis made everything fall into place. I understood why I behaved in certain ways, why I have certain idiosyncrasies, why I have certain challenges. And what I now do is I work with employers to help them better manage people like me, people who are autistic, people who have Asperger's syndrome in their business. And it's a very I get an enormous thrill out of being able to help an employer manage someone with Asperger's syndrome, put systems in place, or just one person. If I can do something with an employer that helps them have one person on the spectrum have a more efficient and more effective communication with their line manager, with their teams, so that that person can feel valued at work and can feel as though they're contributing and can be less stressed and more productive and happier in their work, then that's a great day at the office for me. So that's what I do. That's what I do. And I'm helping employers, and I'm also helping individuals on the spectrum with things that they can do to help themselves. We talked about self advocacy in a recent Talking Asperger's with Andrew. And we can't just let our employers to dictate everything to us if it doesn't feel right, if it doesn't work for us. We have the right to stand, to speak up and say, actually, I heard what you said, but it would be better for me if we did it this way, or if we summarized it in that way, or if you communicated with me in this way, which is different from what you've done for the others. And those sorts of simple things that can be implemented can make the world of difference to how the team works, how that person fits within the team, and how productive and effective they are. So today's topic is, well, it's one that strikes a chord with me, and that's very simply order. What do we mean by order? Well, to me, order means organized, regimented, systematic, with a procedure, with a protocol, everything in its place, and a place for everything. So as I sit here on my at my desk at my office, I've got, to my left, I've got a stack of filing trays. To my right, I've got my printer. Down to my left, I've got a filing cabinet with two drawers on it that sits under my desk, where I've got all my files. And then over to my right and behind me to my right, I've got my bookshelves where I've got books and reference material and all sorts. I know where everything is. And that's really important for me. It's not just a case of, it's a good thing to be tidy, isn't it? It's more than that. It's more than just being tidy and not chaotic. It's having to have order, having to know where things are, having to put things back where they come from. Simple things like kitchen utensils. I don't leave them lying around. If they're to be washed up, they get put in the washing up pile. When they've been washed up, they get put back where they came from. They're not left lying around so that they can get lost or mixed up with something else. I know that if I go to the cutlery drawer, I've got the four sections lined out where the utensils are, where the knives, where the forks, with the spoons, and then there's one at the front with the small spoons and the small measurings for tablespoon, teaspoons, and half teaspoons and quarter teaspoons. It's that regimental where everything is in our kitchen. Just the same for where I am here, and it's just the same with files. Before I knew I had Asperger's, but always knew I was different, I was a geologist for 23 years. And I was quite often work on fairly large projects. And so there was a lot of information. And when you've got a lot of information, particularly historical information, that we worked on roads projects that might have had two or three or four previous designs and iterations before you got to the stage that you're at now, there were quite often some done in the 60s, some in the 70s, and so on. So you had a huge amount of information, I mean, boxes and boxes and boxes of information. And to be given something like that, said, Andrew, we've got all this stuff. We've just got this new job in, and there's all those boxes at the end of the office. I'm sure you've seen them. Go and make sense of them. Go and find out what's in those boxes. That to me was, yes, please. It gave me the opportunity to do it served two purposes actually. One was to file it and organize it. What sort of material was it? Was it old maps? Was it old borehole records or trial pit records? Was it factual information, other factual information? Was it someone else's previous interpretation? Was it design information? Was it stakeholder information? Other stakeholders such as landowners and things like that. All of these things, different types of information, I would register and record and give them a name and a number and a list so that, file A1 would have a certain type of information. Its file A2 would be a continuation of A1 and so on. And then within each file, so a lever arch file, you'd have your dividing tabs of 5 or 12 or 10 or 20. And I would put a sheet of paper in the front of that and I would type it up in a Word document, file list. So behind each tab, there was a certain piece of information. If the file number 1 was correspondence, then section 1 of that file might be correspondence to the client. Section 2 might be correspondence from the client. Section 3 might be correspondence to other design team members. Section 4 and so on. So that everything had a thing, so that you could open up the file and know exactly what's in there. I need tab 6. There it is. Boom. Got the information and know where it is. And then there was also where that was filed, where that was kept. Were they kept in the bookshelves behind me? Were they kept somewhere else? Were they files that were kept in a filing cabinet? All of those simple things. And you're probably sitting there thinking, what is he going on about? But it's about having order, about knowing the information that you've got and recording it so that if I'm on holiday or unavailable for a week, someone else working on that project, my boss, a fellow colleague, or uh, someone from a different department. Quite often when we worked on roads projects, we had civil engineers, we had structural engineers, drainage engineers, a whole plethora of different teams involved in the project. And so any one of them might come in and say, I need that information in I need to look at the previous correspondence to see what we've got. They would come to me, they say, where is it? And I would go, there it is. I know exactly where it is. There's the file list. Boom, it's over there. Show them where it is and present it to them. And they would know. And then they would then sign that out with a sign out card so that if they took it away, they would bring it back and sign it back in. But rather than me not being there because I'm on holiday or I've phoned in sick for whatever reason and the world stopping, no one could do anything on that project because no one can find anything. They could go to my central file, say, that's where it is. It's in that filing cabinet, or it's on that bookshelf, or it's in that archive store, and they could find what they wanted at ease, simply, efficiently. That's having order. So I am very much get your ducks in a row. If you've got a dozen things to do, prioritize them. But priority one, I'm looking down to my left. Priority one would be to my left because I read from left to right, as we all do. Most of us do. So priority one would be to the left and priority 12 would be to the right. So that I would line things up, order them, knowing where things are, because the opposite of order is chaos, and I can't function in chaos. If I was in a chaotic situation, I would have to stop, take stock of what was around me, what was the situation around me, and focus on one thing and try to make sense and order out of that one thing, so that rather than try and fathom out what's going on in this chaotic scene, what's the one thing that I need to do? What's the top priority? What needs my attention now? And I would do that. Order. And when I finish something for the day, I would either leave it in piles on my desk because I was working on it and I could come back to it the next day. Or if it was information that I was only cursory using, I'd put it back in the filing cabinet so that I had what I was working on and the other information was all back in the filing cabinet. So again, if someone wanted to come, was working late and they wanted to know what was going on, they would know from my filing system, it's in filing cabinet number 1, drawer 2, and you can find the tab in the rows as you look through them. Very simple thing to implement, having a system that records what you've got And to me, that's the dream ticket. Give me something to organize, give me something to file, give me something to make sense of, and that's absolutely up my street. You might be sitting there thinking, oh God, that's awfully boring. No, it is not, because I've got this information and I'm the one who can make sense of it. I can put my stamp on it. I can decide how I want it categorized, how I want it labeled, how I want it filed, where I want it put. So to me, that's having that's a blessing, because I can put it where I want. I can use my free thinking abilities and my logical mind to say, I'm going to put it there, I'm going to put that there, I'm going to put those there. Those I don't need as frequently. They can go in the archive store at the back on the bottom shelf on the left. If it's got a number, refer to it in my filing system. So that anyone who comes to say, I need that information, do you know where it is? Yes, of course. Archive filing cabinet, bottom shelf on the left. And they'll go, wow, thanks. And they find it and they've got it. It's great. And it helps when you're actually doing the work, when you're actually analyzing the data or writing a report, because you have structure and order to how you've organized and filed all the data. My logical mind is then in that frame of mind. How do I organize what I'm doing? How do I organize my report? What are my sections going to be in my report? I would have a section one. Section one was usually introduction, but there may be an executive summary at the front of that, which won't be written until the end. The executive summary, usually one or two paragraphs, that says at a very high level, we were commissioned by a client to do X. We did Y and Z. Our principal findings are A, B, and C. And if there was a cost or program or time implications, they would be marked. It would take 6 months. It would cost £12,000, or whatever the outcome would be. Executive summary is a very important document in many reports, because not everyone is going to want to read a report that's this thick or this thick. And some of the reports that we wrote are of that magnitude in major investigations for design of a roads project. If you're designing a 13-kilometer motorway, you've got a lot of information. You have to break it down into sections and so on, and tackle each one individually. So when you actually come to compile the report, you're compiling sections of a report at a time. So you may have 20 or 30 or 40 sections. So that's 20, 30 or 40 mini reports for a given section, a given aspect of the project. So you have to compile it all together and put it all together. And you may end up with something that is, quite a significant volume. Your boss isn't going to want to have to read all of that to know what's going on. He might want to know an executive summary. How long is it going to take? How much is it going to cost? And what are the key problems or the key solutions? So that when he's briefing the client, he can do that, looking at the executive summary, bam, there we are, there's the information. They can relay that to the client. There may also be another summary, which might be a half a dozen pages, which is a little more detail, but not as detailed as the whole report. But it might be half a dozen pages that puts a bit more detail on some of the key aspects of it. And sometimes you have those summaries as well. So all of those things come out of order, because everything's organized, everything's systematic, everything's recorded and documented. I used to always attach a copy of my filing system to the quality plan. We would have a quality plan. We had to work under ISO 9001 quality standards. And so the most logical place to put your filing system was the quality plan. Quality plan is kept updated of quality information and how you were presenting the work in terms of quality and standards. And so it was logical for me to put the filing system to that. Now, if I had added to or changed the filing system at any point, I would give it a new revision. So it'd be revision 1, revision 2, revision 3, and I would amend that and I would append that to the quality plan as the new version. And I would write in the quality plan that the filing system is now file system filing system 1.1 or 1.3 or filing system 2.1. So that when the person said, right, filing system is up, if issue 2, look at the back of it, that's issue 2, that's the most current filing system that there is. I can take that and I can go and find what I want, where I want it. So having order is very advantageous because you know where everything is. You know where it's laid out. You know that you can put your hands on something quickly, and it helps you gather your thoughts and put your thoughts together on how you're going to present the findings of your project. Because a report just doesn't appear out of thin air. There has to be some thought process to it. You start off by saying who you are, what you were commissioned to do, by whom, what the program was. So, first item in the item paragraph 1.1, the firm of ABC Construction Limited was commissioned by Client Limited to undertake a doodah, an investigation or design of a roads project between A and B in the borders of Scotland or wherever. The findings are presented in this report, so that you logical step by step all the way through, knowing that everything follows on from the other sections and it's logical, it's order, it's consistency. That's the other thing that falls out of this, is consistency. I spoke about consistency in the previous episode of Talking Asperger's with Andrew, and consistency is so that if I'm working on 2 or 3 projects at once, or 4 or 5, and I've got my filing system all based on the same principles, someone will say to me, I need to see the quality plan for this project. No problem at all. It's in that file there. They will know where they can find that because I've just told them. They will also get a very strong hint that if they want to go and find out where the quality plan is for another project, they will know where to find that as well, because it will be in the same file number or in a very similar file number in that other project's filing system, so that my system is transferable across one project to another to another. The size of the projects might vary. Then, the filing system might be one lever arch file for one small project, which is fine because you have an index at the front, etc. But it's just the same principle. Organize what you're doing, get your thoughts, get your logical process together, and that helps. It helps me function because I know that everything is in order. I know where everything is. I know how to get hold of information. So do my colleagues. So does my boss. So that in the event I'm at a meeting or I'm not available or I'm not in or I'm out on site, they can still find the information they need with as little fuss and as little time as possible. You just need to make sure that they put it back after they've used it, which sometimes was a problem. Did you borrow that file? Yes, because you'll know, because it should be signed out with the signing out sheet that goes with every file. Okay, you signed it out. Have you finished with it? Oh yeah, yeah. So it's on the end of my desk. Well, let's stick it back in the file and sign you back in, so that you're not signed out as the recipient of that file. And you're training your colleagues to be efficient, to be logical, to be order, to have order in what they do. So from someone who has Asperger's or an autistic person, order can be very, very important. It might be your 8-year-old child, when they finish playing for the day and it's time for them to go to bed, they will line up their toy cars or their books or their CDs or their toys in a certain order before they go to bed. And you will find that every night the same toys are in the same order, in the same place when they go to bed. And they will know in the morning if someone has gone into their room and moved the toys or borrowed a toy or switched 2 of them around. I would know at home when I went into my bedroom if someone had been in the bedroom and had borrowed a book or moved one of my files or moved one of my records or borrowed a cassette tape from me and not told me about it, because I could tell just by scanning the room in an instant. Would not take long. It's literally walk in, bam, you scan the room, you know exactly that's not in the right place. Something's missing from over there. And I would then go and investigate why that thing was missing or why something had been moved. So that familiarity with where everything is, where everything belongs, where everything has its place is really important. Because if, for example, a parent or a sibling goes into their bedroom after they've gone to sleep, moves all the toys around, child with Asperger's or autism wakes up in the morning, the first thing they will notice is that their toys are not as they had left them. And it won't just be, oh, that's interesting. I wonder what happened. Where's my toy? Where's my toy? It's not where it's supposed to be. Where is it? Where is it? What's happened to it? They will get agitated. They will get immediately on alert. Why have my toys been moved? Who's touched them? No one was allowed to touch my toys. Why has something been moved? Why is something missing? And that will immediately put them on alert. Why has that happened? Because their sense of order has been challenged and has been changed and is not how they left it. They will probably have their socks all lined up in their sock drawer in a certain order, their t-shirts stacked in a certain way in their drawers, their shirts and trousers and hung up in their wardrobe in a certain way. They will probably have jackets. I had jackets on the left, then I had shirts, and I had my shirts in different categories. So I'd have super posh, so that was weddings, funerals, and job interviews. Normal everyday work, so that was still a shirt and tie type of shirt, proper collared shirt. There'd be those, and then there would be casual, and then there would be smart, then there would be casual, smart casual, polo shirts at the end. Then there would be trousers. Then there would be ties. Always in that order. Always in that order. So that I would know that shirt's not where I left it. I haven't moved it. Where's that shirt gone? And you go and track down your brother. Have you borrowed my shirt? Or your dad? You borrowed my shirt? Yeah, yeah, I was going out. You know, why is that not where I left it? So all of these things, and things not being in that order, in that position, in that place, can really agitate, not just, oh, I'm a bit peeved by that. It can really agitate and can be the absolute focus of that person's attention until they have found the reason why their toy is missing, or the toys have been moved, or their shirt's not where it was hung up, or whatever it is. And then when they've fathomed out what has happened, they'll need to fathom out why. Why does that move? Oh, I just brushed it with my feet as I came in to kiss you goodnight when you were asleep, from the parent. Might be. That might be the reason. But it might not be. It might be that a sibling has borrowed that toy or taken that toy. And, you know, they're an older sibling or another sibling and they have another room and they borrowed the toy and not put it back. That will great. That will agitate the autistic person, and it will really, really get to them. It will make them vocal. It will be a disproportionate response to what you might think. Oh, that's been moved. No worries. To the autistic person, it won't be that level of response. It will be DEFCON 5, not DEFCON 1, or I've got them the wrong way around. I think it's DEFCON 1 is nuclear Armageddon is about to happen rather than 5. Anyway, whichever's the more severe, they will be way up, way up the level of anxiety and angst and vocalness about why is my toy not where I left it? And it will take them a while to find their toy, if they're able to, and they interrogate siblings and parents as to why that was not where it was. And it will take them a considerable time to calm down and get into a normal frame of mind, just because their toy is missing or has been moved. And it's really important that as parents, as employers, we understand the severity of that incident, and we don't belittle. Oh, don't worry, it just It's just moved. Don't worry about it. Get over. It was still in your bedroom. Don't worry about it. That's not going to make that autistic person comfortable or feel able to cope with it. They will not be able to cope with it. They will struggle with it. So in a work situation, suppose someone comes in and takes out a file from the filing cabinet and doesn't sign it out. Oh, I only need it for 5 minutes. Just wanted to photocopy something and put it back. But suppose when you're at the photocopier, photocopying that letter or that sheet of calculations or whatever it was that you were doing, someone said to you, "Oh, Andrew, I just need to talk to you about so and so. Oh, yeah, can you come with me?" And what do? Do you take the file with you? Do you leave it at the photocopier? And you're gone for 2 hours. Well, there's 2 hours where that file has not been signed out and no one knows where it is. The worst case scenario is it gets lost, which is damaging. There's another bad scenario where someone comes and decides to do a quality audit on that project. It says here that that file should be in that filing cabinet. It's not there. It's not signed out. Where is it? That's a non-compliance. You get a non-compliance because that file is not there because someone hasn't signed it out, even though they only needed it for 5 minutes but got distracted and were away for 2 hours. Not necessarily the most obvious scenario that will happen, but it's not impossible that you will get audited on that project. And if your files aren't up to date, you get a non-compliance. The non-compliance affects you personally, affects your company significantly. And if it's bad and your client is doing an audit, well, it might cost you your project. It might cost you significant fees and costs and expenditure or a fine. Do you really want to get a fine from your client or a third party regulatory body coming in? We're doing an audit. This file's not there. Why is it not there? Who's in charge of this file? Right, it's him. You're the project manager. Why is that file not in that filing cabinet? What do you say? I don't know. Someone's taken it without signing it out. What do you say? You say someone's taken it without signing it out. Well, where is it? I don't know. You're on a hiding. You're absolutely on a hiding to nothing. Your reputation from your business is in tatters because someone isn't following the procedure. And just because they wanted it out and they got distracted and someone else was higher up or whatever it was, took them away and they left it at the photocopier or they took it with them. It's still not signed out. You've lost. Someone comes in as an audit, or the director or your client is in the building having a meeting with another team member, your project director or another stakeholder in the business. They've come down. Yeah, just want to have a look at this file. I want to just check something out, and it's not there. You've got your director and your client standing there. This is the filing system. Where's that file? It's not in there and it's not signed out. I have no idea. Someone must have taken it without signing it out. Who? I don't know. They've not signed it out. All because the order, the protocol, the procedure has not been followed. You are absolutely stuffed. And that could be professionally damaging to your business if it's a simple thing like a protocol for signing out a file is not being followed and someone comes and audits, or your director wants to find that file because there's an important letter in it that they want to see and the file is not there. What do you do? You're, you're toast. Your reputation, your business's reputation could be on the line. You might be tendering for a project. And as part of the tendering procedure, the client comes and audits you on your previous job. Well, I can tell you one thing. If they find a non-compliance because something is not where it's supposed to be, or it's not being recorded correctly or signed off correctly, guess who's not going to be awarded anything on that tender? It's important. I know I'm laboring this, but I want to get across to you that there is a need for order, and autistic people are some autistic people are particularly susceptible to having order, and that order can reflect on your business. If it's not in order and it's not done right and it's not following procedure, it can adversely affect your business. So by having someone who is in control of the filing system, it's a simple thing as a filing system, could be the difference between your business getting the next big contract or your business getting fined because you've got a non-compliance. Which would you rather have? Order or penalties, or not getting the job at all? And if you lose out on a job because your procedures aren't being followed, you're on a hiding to nothing. You can't get that reputation back in 2 weeks, in 6 months. It might take years before you get back on that tender list to quote for that client. All because someone isn't following the protocol, the procedure that has been put in place. So autistic people, people with Asperger syndrome, can be very great assets in organizing information in your business. Now, I've used examples of major roads projects and the like, but I'm sure in your business, you can think of situations where you've had different departments, interdepartmental, different teams, third party. You may have a sub-consultant or a subcontractor working for you. You've got to keep all your ducks in a row, keep all your channels open of communication and how you're recording all the information that comes in and where it's filed and stored, and is it in accordance with the quality plan. If someone with Asperger syndrome or autism is looking after your file and they are a person who is absolutely governed by order, let them do it. Let them be the person who organizes your data and keeps it up to date, because they will do that. They will take that mantle on and they will make sure that everything is in order and is compliant. And if it's not, they're the first port of call. I've noticed this isn't complying with what we've agreed and what we've done. Is there a reason for that? Now, that reason might be he's made a change or she's made a change and they've not recorded it in the quality plan yet or in the filing system and it's about to be done. Or it might be that someone else has come down and has borrowed something without signing it out. All because people aren't following the procedure, the order of the way things should be. I like order in my personal space. I've talked about the examples of the kitchen and my desk around me here. But autistic people, people with Asperger syndrome, some of us absolutely have to have order and routine, familiarity, and knowing what's happening next, rather than don't know what's happening, don't know what's. We're going to a meeting at 2 o'clock. What's the meeting about? Oh, I don't know. Just turn up. Oh, that's not a good thing to say to someone with Asperger's or autism. Just turn up at the meeting, you'll be fine. I need to know who the meeting's with, what the agenda is. So please send me the agenda beforehand so that I can prepare. I may have notes. There may be a previous meeting minutes that I need to review. And there may be any actions. All of these things. Just saying to me, there's a meeting in half an hour, come along. I'll do it because that's what you've asked me to do. But I need to have a bit more notice and I need to have a bit more information so that I can get my thoughts in order. I can have my ducks in a row. And if there's something that, good, it's a meeting about such and such, I've got some important information or I've got some questions I need information from others that hasn't been forthcoming. So I can raise these things at the meeting. Just because you have order. So it's really, really important as a business owner to understand that there are some people in your employment who are governed by order, governed by rules, by protocols and procedures. And that's a good thing. That's a great thing. Take advantage of it. Take advantage of those autistic people and those others who like order. But it's not just restricted to neurodivergent people. There are neurotypical people who absolutely thrive on order. Use that ability to thrive on order to order and organize what you're doing. And it will pay off. I regularly had spreadsheets of summaries of where we were on projects I was working on when I was a geologist. Again, before I knew that I had Asperger's. And I would keep these spreadsheets up to date. These are the 7 I can remember one particular project where we had 7 outstanding items that we required information from the client. And my boss would say, how are we doing with these things? Well, there's still the 7 items on the list. Okay, Sam, give me the list. So I'd give him the spreadsheet. He knew exactly, he could then formulate his, well, we need to speak to the client about these because these top 2 are showstoppers. We've got to deal with these first 2 and get that information so that we can get the design done. Otherwise, we're not going to be in a chance to deliver on time. So the boss can then have that discussion with the client. We need this information from you so that we can deliver on time. If you don't give it to us, we can't deliver on time. That is a very important incentive that the client will think, yes, understand, we'll get it to you by close of business tomorrow, or whatever the situation. Or they might say, we're just not in a position to give you that information at the moment, but we can extend the deadline for a month. And by which time we will have the information to you in sufficient time for you to do what you need to do with it. Then you document that, add it, you make a change to your quality plan and your program. Everything's kept above board because you have a system in place that deals with that. So if you are an employer and you have people who like order, who may be autistic, maybe have Asperger's, or just are organized and ordered people, use them. Utilize that skill. I had, as I said, I had spreadsheets in all sorts of places on all sorts of projects, summaries of what's going on, financial information, programming information, um, just what information we have, what historical information that we've gleaned, what information we completed. If I'm writing a big report that's got 20 components to it, am I writing all 20 components, or am I got colleagues that are writing 2 or 3 or 4 sections each? So there will be a spreadsheet, name, which component, who's in charge of dealing with it, what's the date by, how are we doing in progress, and I'll keep that up to date on my spreadsheet, so that if my boss said to me, how are we doing with these things, I could look at the spreadsheet. We are on target for that one, on target for that one, we're ahead with that one, but this one we're behind, and I could give the explanation. So instantly having that information available to hand shows that you're being competent, shows that you're professional, and it gives your boss, and then when that information is relayed to your client, gives them confidence that you individually, you as a business, know what you're doing, you're organized, you're methodical, you're logical, and everything is has a place and everything is going in accordance with the overall plan, rather than don't know, it's in that pile over there somewhere. Oh, actually no, so and so borrowed it 2 days ago. Have they brought it back? Did they, excuse me, do you know if someone brought that back 2 days ago? You're not sure? It's chaos. You have chaos, and you don't know what you're doing, and you can't recall the information. You can't get it because it's not there, it's not signed out. So having people who are ordered is really important. Quite often they will be autistic or have Asperger's. Utilize that skill. And if they say to you, we have a problem with with what's been going on, listen to them, because if they've identified something that needs to be addressed, they will probably have a solution or a number of solutions to suggest to you. Sit down and listen to them. If you need to make adjustments in what you're doing, do so, get approval from the client, and proceed. So it's really important that you take advantage of people who are autistic, have Asperger's, who like order, because it reflects well on your business. It reflects well on your team leaders, and it reflects well on your directors and your company as a whole. And that is what you want. You want a business that is working well, efficiently, and by having people who understand and are ordered, makes things go a lot smoother, a lot smoother. So that's all we have time for today on episode 65 of Talking Asperger's with Andrew. And yes, I have labored the point to some extent, but I wanted to get across to you how important it is that those of us who are autistic or have Asperger's and are ordered, we need to have that order. It's we struggle when we can't have that order, and we get agitated, and it can lead to meltdowns and overwhelm, which can lead to problems for the person and problems for the team. So it's not a case of it has to be right, it has to be my way, but it has to be order. And they have to have order, and they can function better. They're much calmer and able to be more efficient. And that's what you want. You want your teams to be efficient, working productively and working effectively. And if you've got people who have order and you're given instructions in a clear and concise way, you're more likely to succeed than you are to fail. So my name's Andrew Marsh. I work with employers to help them better manage people with Asperger's syndrome. If you have a question for me about anything to do with Asperger's syndrome in the workplace, then please feel free to get in touch at my website, which is just behind my left shoulder, aspergersmatters.com, or you can email me at andrew@aspergersmatters.com, or also look me up on LinkedIn, and I'll be delighted to connect with you and answer any questions you may have. Please keep a lookout on Friday afternoon for what next week's post topic will be. I have an idea, just need to run it through my head a little bit, but it will be posted probably Friday afternoon or Saturday. So until next week, thank you for your time. If you are watching on YouTube, I would appreciate it if you could like, subscribe, and comment to help me build my audience. But until next week, take care and goodbye.